Hello and welcome to my channel on human design, the channel where the viewers set the agenda and the focus by sending me in questions. At least that's what it's become recently. Now this week it's all projectors, so we have a projector special this week. I'll go straight into it with a question from a projector mother. This is from Eternal Reality 786. I have a couple of questions related to analyzing the composite chart of me and my daughter in order to successfully navigate this relationship as a single mother. The majority of my hanging gates, including my incarnation cross gates, except one, are complemented by her hanging gates, and my life changed drastically after her birth, especially my 37 South and my 40 North nodal axis. I was seriously wondering if my transpersonal 6-2 left angle cross projector profile gets fulfilled by simply being a guide to my 4-6 right angle projector child, although it feels a lonely mission. Is this a valid path for me, or am I oversimplifying it in order to cope with my midlife Uranus opposition crisis? Okay, well, thank you for the question. And firstly, I want to just be clear that the gates that your daughter has that connects with you, they're not so much complementary, they're what we call electromagnetics. It adds a sparkiness to the relationship. So it's a kind of a love-hate, attraction, repulsion dynamic rather than complementary. So that's something to understand. Can your life be fulfilled in being a guide to your child? Well, first of all, let me say, to be a mother is going to become rarer and rarer in the world. And that's something you may want to consider. So it's not like it's only being a mother. There's a great deal in your charts together, which is quite astonishing when you look at it. I mean, some of those electromagnetics, your daughter may at the moment be draining resources from you. It may be difficult. Yes, you may be lonely, especially when you've got the 33rd gate that is kind of reflecting upon the past and the way it should be. But yes, your South and North nodes are in the channel of community. This is the road you're walking along. It can be community, it can be family. So yes, indeed, you're walking the correct path. And I don't want you to think that it's only what it is now. I mean, when I look at the two of you together, those electromagnetics, they create the full path from the 54 all the way to the 45. And it's a third line path. So a third line is a trial and error line. It's a discovery line, but it can also be a material line. So I think you're going to be very grateful that you've given birth to your daughter, because if she's successful in the world, she will always be helping you. And the two of you together create the whole path all the way through. So that's something also to think about. I mean, there's a leadership quality in the 6th line, and you're both 6 lines. And the leadership is really to be authentic as yourself, for both of you to find leadership in that you have integrity. You're here to be integrous, not hypocritical. And that's a journey for both of you. So when I look at this movement between the two of you, I think about, wow, not only that, the 5342 is there. So the starting and finishing of projects or cycles, this kind of movement of from one thing to another to expand in the experience. And as a material path for both of you, your dynamic is actually very fortuitous, if I put it that way. So, of course, when you compare it to the life that you lived before, it's like, what the hell happened to me? And who the hell am I now? I must be mother. And you have an open G, and your daughter has an open G, and together the open G remains open. So when you think about what an open G is, it's about, in the not self, longing for love, longing for direction. And together, you're both together, but the G is open, like it's not fixing identity. It's about learning, in a way, love. It's about learning to love yourself in this process and learning to love another. So there's a lot of beauty in the combined charts. I want you to know that. And when we come to the Uranus opposition, this is a time when our way comes to us, not, if you're not fully conditioned and you're open to the planets coming and moving you along, then the way comes. And in this sense, the way has come in terms of your daughter. It can be a fantastic relationship. And yes, there's going to be fights along the way with the 3 electromagnetics. There's going to be your daughter amplifying your emotional energy when you're down in the wave. And there's going to be a fair amount of exhaustion along the way, and you navigating that. But there's also going to be the mental awareness. Your daughter has the 6124. She has the channel of awareness. It's a very strange and inventive mind. Thinks out of the box, and she has her own insights coming down in the 43. Well, you compromise her there, in that you're conscious 4323. You know what you know. So it's going to be difficult for her to bring her knowing out verbally anyway. So that's something to bear in mind as a guide to her, to allow her the time she needs to speak. Now, of course, in the open throat, she's going to be attracting a lot of attention to what she wants, probably. The 45 is there. The gate of I have or I haven't got something. At the same time, the 62 is open. So it's about words and details and facts. So you might find that she's very creative in terms of perhaps her drawing skills, her writing skills. We'll see. I mean, this is part of the adventure. Many women that I know didn't want to become mothers, yet became mothers, and it's been the making of them. It's really been the making of them. So that's something to bear in mind. Yes, for the first 7 years, you are her whole world. And yes, it will feel like a constriction to you at the moment, but it will change. It will change. And about you navigating it successfully, you've got a potentially very efficient mind. You've got the 4816, the wavelength. So being able to bring her into your wavelength through understanding, your ability to make things as easy as possible, to have your own systems that you bring in to make it easier. One of the things to watch is that she's going to want to do things quickly because she's splenic. She doesn't have the solar plex, and you're going to need more time, to kind of feel into it. So that's part of the navigation that you've got to do. But yeah, I do think your life can be fulfilled through this. Absolutely. You find love in family, love in community, love in, as a mother, connection to other mothers and other children. I mean, it could be really beautiful. So yeah, just understand that it is what it is, and you are who you are, and she is who she is, and together it's quite something. Understand that your daughter has the channel of transformation, the 5432, so you will be put under pressure by her, and there's nothing that either of you can do. It's a mechanical truth. At the same time, that same pressure, can really move you up in the world, both you and her, as time goes by. So things are the way they are now, and they will change, and it could be beautiful. Now, the second part of your question, in the case that both mother and child are energy projectors with varied energy motors and different profiles, should I, as a mother, be using a hybrid method of responding to invitations? Am I supposed to go solely by my own emotional authority, or should I be combining mine and her splenic authority while trying to find clarity? Can projectors harness other projectors' authority if it's more time efficient, since we live life as a single unit most of the time? I think that's wonderful. No, you can't take her authority from her and use that. You can watch her her immediacy in her movements, in her expressions. You know, she's splenic, so it's going to be in the moment. But you making your decisions, you have to feel into it. That is your authority. As I said earlier, you know, she'll be wanting to do things quicker than you. And it's like, you don't want to be pushed into or manipulated into something that she wants that isn't going to work for you. That's one of the lessons you're going to learn. She has a 2644, you know, she can twist you around a little finger, or she's certainly going to try. So yeah, you better rely on your own emotional authority and take your time, and don't be hurried and don't be pushed. You do have the emotional authority, and that is a very strong authority. So yeah, you take your time, you stay with your emotional authority. You may live as a single unit, but you have your authority, she has hers. What an interesting couple of questions. Thank you very much for that one. Good. Now, our next question is from Scarlet Songs, 9870. And this, in contrast, is about a projector. Should a projector be single if she's pursuing her career? This is her question. Hi, Richard. As a 4/6, is it actually wrong to be single? Don't leave a relationship before you have the next, question mark. I'm such a loyal person. It doesn't happen to me easily to even consider someone else while I'm in a relationship. I definitely hold on too long to the wrong ones, that's for sure. As a struggler and a hanging 42 in an open sacral and a conscious 27 sun. So whenever a long relationship is over, I always need a while to recover. The very few, very long relationships I've had have been a doozy, to say the least. I've learned heaps, though, that's for sure. Currently, I'm really focusing on building a business in an aligned way and very purposefully staying alone. I am focusing on my success, on building a correct life, on actually being able to be seen for my gifts in the right way. My theory is that the more fulfilled I am through my purpose and through knowing my own worth, the more the right invitations will come in naturally anyway, including a potential partner. Is this wrong? Is it better to be with someone who isn't ideal than nobody for a 4/6 until someone better comes along? This sounds so immature, doesn't it? And isn't it a spiritually very potent time for anybody to be single and celibate for a while without distractions, especially for us projectors who so easily get sucked into them? I've asked a different human design analyst before, and she said it's just important to stay connected with a network in general. It doesn't necessarily have to be romantic. Another said, since I need to be learning through the other, I shouldn't be single. What do you say? Thank you so much. Oh, you make me laugh. In my view, is that it is better to be single than to be in a relationship that doesn't work, whether you're a 4/6 or not. What you're doing now, focusing on your career, focusing on you living your life, living who you are, and thinking, well, maybe that will attract the right partner to me. I think that's a good one, actually. I don't disagree with you. I think in this material world and in a world where that pressure is getting more and more, I think you're very wise in it. And let's remember, you know, we don't know what's going to happen. You know, you can say, yes, I'm determined to be single because I want to succeed in my own business. But, you don't know who's going to come along. You can suddenly fall in love, that can happen. That can happen. There's always something wild that comes in from the outside if there's something wrong in the center. But I'm not picking up that there's anything wrong in the center for you. Yes, you're here to guide others, and you can guide others in business, and you can guide others in a relationship. Your network will increase with the success of your business. So in terms of, you should be part of a network. Well, you've already got certain friends and associates that you connect to. And the more you succeed in your business, the likelihood is that is going to increase. And who knows where it will take you. So no, you're not wrong, unless an invitation comes that you can accept, that you can open to, then continue with what you're doing. And also know that you don't know what's going to come up in the future. It's not wrong to live, your own life according to your own strategy and authority. Nobody can tell you what's right and wrong for you in that sense. Only you. That's the whole point of human design. So from my point of view, hearing the strength in the way that you speak about what you're doing and where you're going, especially if you've got a strategic left arrows in your chart, I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. So good luck, and I wish you good success. Next question is from Regular Deep Learning for Growth, and they ask, Dear Richard, can you please help me understand what it means if a split definition splenic projector has 20th and 51st gates missing in their chart? Is it correct to say that if a person's design needs only one gate to bridge their split, they usually blame themselves for not having the quality associated with that specific gate? But if more than just one gate is needed to bridge their split, they blame others. If so, is it only true for projector type or other types as well? Thank you in advance for your explanation, Richard. Okay, technical question, and yes, it applies to all types. So when you say you have the 20th and the 51st gate missing, I guess you're saying these are two places where your chart is going to be bridged. It's described as a single split because there's one gate there and there's one gate there. But basically, when we're talking about more than one gate, we're talking about a channel. We're not talking about just, have you got two gates separate? There's only one gate that either the 51st or the 20 that will join your splits. So yes, in that sense, there can be a tendency to think there's something that you've done wrong or that it was your fault. Whether you can say specifically it's because you didn't have the 51 or you didn't have the 20, I don't think you can really go that far, because it's just a more general sense of, I should have done something. When you've got a full channel that will join the split and only a full channel, then it's going to be, well, your skin isn't in the game in that sense. It's not up to you to join the split. It's, someone brings along the full channel and then suddenly you're joined, and they go away, and you're not looking to join it. So that's really the distinction. It's not a matter of having multiple single gates. It's about whether it's a single gate or it's a full channel. So I hope that makes that clear for you and the other viewers. Thank you for the question. And now, as our final question, we have a question regarding past lives from a splenic projector. This is their question. This is from The Brush Within. My question is concerning defined centers versus undefined centers and how they may relate to past and present incarnations. So I'm a 6'2" splenic projector, having been in this experiment since about 2011. A few days ago, in a sudden insight, likely due to my 4323 channel, I suspect, I realized whether actually true or not, that defined centers were actually a result of mastery of previous undefined centers from a previous incarnation. Since I've never seen this mentioned by Ra or anyone else, I'm very curious as to what you think of this insight. Of course, because of the Genius to Freak I Know channel, it came across as very true. And my judgment channel said yes as well. So your thoughts on this possibility would be invaluable. Thanks so much for everything you do, Mark. Okay, Mark, you're right. Ra never said anything about this. So I want to look at your chart and just see if we can come to an understanding about this insight. First of all, your head center is connected to the ajna. So there's a pressure to think and there's a pressure to reflect with the channel of abstraction. So I think it's useful to look at your chart, and you see that you have an aspect in every single one of the head center gates, which is quite unusual. So you can be inspired in specific ways in the past, present, and future. So in a way, it's not a surprise that you're thinking about, well, what about past lives? Because the channel of abstraction is past orientated, reflecting upon the confusion of what happened and what does it really mean. At the same time, the 4323 will come through with I know, as you say, and it will be I know and I know I'm right. And then you've got the channel of judgment, which is logical, and it moves into the 48, the gate of solutions, you know. So yeah, it kind of makes sense that you would think in a way that this insight is true. And, you know, when you think about it, yes, it's logical that that would be the case. Yeah, but whether it's true or not is really the case. And, you know, it's not as simple as that, is what I would say to you. You're centering on centers and you're going, yeah, if I think about centers, maybe in a past life, I've got the fixed center because I didn't have it last time and now experiencing what this is now. It really isn't as simple as that. When you think about us coming into different lives in different incarnations, and you think about the personality crystal incarnating in one body after another, just imagine how many lives we've led up to now. Just imagine. You know, you've had all the centers open and fixed, you know, over the multiple lifetimes you've had. And also, what is the potential of being incarnated? The potential in being incarnated as a unique life is to experience that life and add to the totality through experiencing your life. And it's not just about the centers. There are 384 lines. You know, if there are 1,028 different variations in every gate. You know, we are all unique. We all are unique in our nature, and we are all nurtured in different ways. You're not just born where you are again and again. You're born all over the world, and all kinds of influences come. And regarding our incarnation, I want you to think about the total consciousness field and see that the whole point of our life, to live a unique life and to experience it in the way that we do, is really to add to the totality of consciousness. And the totality of consciousness really is looking for the perfected form within which consciousness can reside. And in that sense, the human form isn't a particularly good form. You know, it's not a bad form. It's, you know, the killer monkeys, as Ra called us. You know, we have done a good job in measuring everything, in having our conceptual mind think about many things. But there is a movement, and the movement is into the the spirit awareness, the emotional awareness that is being affected by a motor all the time in the humans, that's going to change, and that's going to change soon. So I think of us as a transitionary vehicle, and it ain't over yet. And even when the new life form, the rave, comes, it's still not over. There's another shift beyond that. When you think about time and you think about the fulfillment of this consciousness field, you're talking about, I don't know, a couple of billion years from now before the final thing reaches its crescendo. So it's not all about the humans, and it's not all about the centers. And it's not even about the awareness that we as humans can be aware of. I mean, we can be a lot more aware of what's going on than society teaches us. And a lot of you out there will be involved in your own spiritual practice, and you've experimented with many different things, and you know that. But still, the life forms ahead of us are going to have levels of awareness that we cannot even imagine. I mean, there's no way we can even imagine it. So I wouldn't get too human-centered about the whole business. It's not just about our individual lives. We are in the illusion. We are in the Maya. And we are here to be, if we can, to be correct in our movement, in our life at this time with the design that we have. So I want to acknowledge your individual insight and the way that you expressed it. And it's given rise to my response to you. And in that sense, it's got people to think about it. It's got you to think about the bigger picture. And that's valuable. But if I was going to look for mechanics for past lives, I wouldn't look at the centers. That's not the first place I would look. Because life is much more of a tapestry than just the centers. And what we're here to live out is what we're here to live out. There is no choice in that. And it's not like the reason is back here. Remember, your logical side would go, well, what's the reason? What's the reason of incarnating? The reason, it's this. Well, what if there isn't a reason? What if it's just something that's operating on a bigger level than we can conceive of? And I think that is a lot more likely. Humans are one species in this Maya. We are not even the most multiple species. The most multiple species is going to be insects. There are more insects than humans. Will they come back again and again and again and again? And microbes are even more populous than insects. So how far down the ladder do you want to get in terms of incarnation? Because all things live and all things die in this Maya. So I wouldn't be too caught up in fixing on a reason for incarnation. And if I did, I wouldn't be looking at it through the centers. Sometimes when I'm looking at a chart, I can sometimes see a connection to a past life because of the way of the behavior and the languaging of the person in the current life. And sometimes it comes in and it just seems so very obvious, and I say it and they recognize it, but I don't know that I'm going to see it, and I don't know that I'm going to say it. And it's different in different people. you know, a particular mechanic to explain where you've come from and what the lesson is in this life is too simple. Yeah, it's more complicated. It's a richer tapestry than that. And it also brings in another advantage in that you asking this question, knowing about your 4323, knowing that it knows and it's certain, but also that it's not always right. You know, when Ra talks about individuality and knowing, he says, well, an individual needs to know the whole thing from the start right through to the end of it, you know, all of it. And then from that, it can mutate something that's really valuable. And otherwise, what it will do is it will bring insight in from what it actually knows, the information that it's picking up, that it's mutating in a new form. And you haven't got all the information. And it can make sense in terms of, you know, maybe it's the centers, but it's much more complicated than that. So you get to, you know, observe your knowing channel and know that it's not always right. And sometimes it can be absolutely brilliant. Sometimes it can know things in the future and it can be spot on. It's often a matter of timing. So I hope that's been helpful, and I hope it's been helpful to all the viewers. And if so, please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll be back again next week with something completely different. Bye for now.